This week we're going to start thinking about our new history topic, World War II. We're going to see if we can order the key events from within this period on a timeline. We will need to think about some of the key events and describe them. We'll need to put them in order. I also wonder whether you'll be able to think about a key event which might have been a turning point within the war. World War II lasted for 6 years. It began on the 3rd of September 1939 and ended on the 2nd of September 1945. Over 50 million people were killed during World War II, which affected almost every country in the world. The events of World War II have shaped the world we know today and will continue to impact on our future for a long time to come. So what happened? Well, in 1939, on the 1st of September, Hitler's troops invaded Poland. This sparked the beginning of World War II. Britain and France had promised to help Poland if Germany attacked them. So when Hitler refused to withdraw his troops, Britain and France declared war on Germany on the 3rd of September 1939. We're going to jump from the 1st of September 1939 to the 10th of May 1940. Do you think this is a small period of time or a large period of time? How might you show this on a timeline? Another key event was the Battle of France. This event began on the 10th of May 1940, after what seemed to many people a slow start to the war on the Western Front. Germany's troops blazed through France and the other West European countries using the Blitzkrieg, a lightning war technique. Within 6 weeks, France, Belgium and the Netherlands were captured. Now on our timeline, we're going to move from the Battle of France, which was the 10th of May 1940, something called the evacuation of Dunkirk, which occurred on the 26th of May 1940. How would you show this on a timeline? The evacuation of Dunkirk was codenamed Operation Dynamo, and it began on the 26th of May 1940. After sustaining a massive defeat against the Nazis in France, the Allies were forced to retreat to the beaches of Dunkirk. They were rescued by hundreds of small wooden boats and then transferred to a larger ship to sail across the Channel to Dover. Now we'll move from the evacuation at Dunkirk, which was the 26th of May 1940, to the Battle of Britain, which was the 10th of July 1940. Once again, we're in the same year. How are you going to show this on your timeline? Now we move to the 10th of July 1940, when British ships in the English Channel were bombed by the German Luftwaffe. Mass bombings of the airfields, harbours, radar stations and aircraft factories began in August 1940. Now we'll move from the Battle of Britain, which occurred on the 10th of July 1940, to the Blitz, which occurred on the 7th of September 1940. Notice that these events are in the same year. How will you show this on a timeline? The Blitz were a huge part of World War II. This event began on the 7th of September 1940, when the Luftwaffe turned their attention to the bombing of London and other cities, rather than the military targets they had previously focused on. London was bombed for 57 consecutive nights and suffered extensive damage and the loss of thousands of civilian lives. How might this have made people feel? How might it have impacted the soldiers fighting and the people at home? How might this have changed lives? How might this have changed the war? Now let's jump from the Blitz, which started on the 7th of September 1940, to the German invasion of Russia, which began on the 22nd of June 1941. Think about this difference in time. How will you show this on your timeline? The German invasion of Russia began on the 22nd of June 1941. At the beginning of the war, Hitler had signed a non-aggression pact with the Russian leader Stalin. When Hitler broke this agreement and invaded Russia, Russia became one of the Allies and began to fight it back against Germany. So now at this point of the timeline, the Allies have gained another strong country. Now we're going to jump from the 22nd of June 1941 to another key event, which occurred on the 7th of December 1941. Think about which year this is. How would we show this on our timeline? On the 7th of December 1941, Japan bombed a US naval base in Hawaii. This is a major key event within our World War II timeline. Until this point, the United States had opted to remain neutral in the war, but this event prompted them to declare war on Japan the next day. On the 11th of December 1941, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. Why do you think the United States of America joining the war was such an important event? Next, we're moving from the 7th of December 1941 to the 17th of May 1943. How would you show this on your timeline? How does this period of time compare to others you've shown so far on your timeline? Next, we're going to look at the Dam Busters raid. This event took place on the 16th and 17th of May 1943. Specially developed and bouncing bombs were dropped by Lancaster bomber planes on 3 German dams. This caused disruption to the manufacture of German war products and affected infrastructure in the area. How might this have had an impact on the war? Next, we're going to move from the Dam Busters raids in 1943 to the D-Day landings, which occurred on the 6th of June 1944. How will you show this on your timeline? The term D-Day refers to a specific date for a planned operation. In this case, the Allied attack on the beaches of Normandy, which took place on the 6th of June 1944 and was codenamed Operation Neptune. The Normandy landings were the first stage of Operation Overlord, which aimed, and eventually succeeded, to drive the Germans out of France. This was fully achieved on the 30th of August 1944. Remaining in the year 1944, we're going to move from the 6th of June to the 16th of December. The Battle of the Bulge was officially known as the Andreas Offensive, and it began on the 16th of December 1944. It was an attempt by Hitler to try and split up the Allies and stop them advancing on Germany. After some initial success, lack of fuel and retaliation by the Allied Air Force soon halted the offensive. We're almost at the end of our World War II timeline. We're moving from December 1944 to the 8th of May 1945. It's VE Day. VE Day stands for Victory in Europe Day. Following the suicide of Hitler on the 30th of April 1945, Germany surrendered to the West on the 7th of May 1945. The 8th of May 1945 was the date the Allies celebrated the defeat of Nazi Germany. This is VE Day. VE Day is celebrated on the 8th of May each year. Finally, let's move from the 8th of May 1945 to August 1945. How will you show this on your timeline? The USA dropped atomic bombs on Japan. Although the war in Europe had come to an end, fighting continued in the Pacific. In an attempt to end the war as quickly as possible, the American President Harry Truman sanctioned the dropping of atomic bombs on 2 Japanese cities, Hiroshima, the 6th of August 1945, and Nagasaki on the 9th of August 1945. On the 14th of August 1945, Japan surrendered to the West. The moral debate as to whether the use of such a weapon was justified still rages on today. The official end of the war was on the 2nd of September 1945, when Japan formally surrendered. Can you look back through all the events we've discussed, and can you create your own timeline? You could use masking tape, or maybe Unifix cubes. Think about how you would space them to show the distance between each of the events we've talked about. Out of all of the events, which one do you think was the most important? Which one do you think was the turning point in the war? Which one had the most impact on other people? And which one do you think is the most significant? Which one do we still remember today? Or is there more than one? Do you have any reasons for your answers? I'm sure your teachers can't wait to hear your ideas.